Hey, I want to show you something I'm really excited about. A really simple, effective retrofit of existing parking lots by putting in rain gardens that are affordable and easily replicable in high school parking lots, as is the case here, community colleges, parks, office complexes, and more. These are also then great extensions of the classroom here at the high school, and this is reducing flooding, it's saving a lot of water. The other great thing is it's reducing costs over the long term, because those that implement these no longer have to pay for the water coming through an irrigation system. They don't have to maintain the irrigation system. They're basically getting water for life, free water for life from the water harvested off the parking lot that's then helping to grow living shade, living habitat, and much more. And right here is Aaron Kauffman, the mastermind behind this of Southwest Urban Hydrology. And so he's going to give us a lot of the great details on what made this work and learnings that have gone on along the way. So thanks, Aaron, for being a part of this.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right, as we enter this parking lot at the high school, really bleak in terms of what the landscape was. So you can see that the landscape median, where there could be plantings, where we could be infiltrating water, it's actually raised. It's higher than the parking lot, so it can't receive water. Instead, it's draining water and sediment into the parking lot. And this is literally asphalt here. You see that little storm drain there. Water from up above is also coming in here. So it's just this massive drain and loss of water is what the case was. But Aaron here of Southwest Urban Hydrology, he's an amazing community activist that's starting to turn things around. So he's standing in one of the retrofit rain gardens that he put in this parking lot. So Aaron, how many of these have you put in this one parking lot alone here?
This specific parking lot has 24 new retrofitted parking spaces turned into rain gardens.
27 new ones?
24.
24, okay, yep. Sorry, yeah. How much water do they all collect?
On average, they probably have an open volume of about 600 gallons, and they're each collecting about 3,500 square feet of runoff. So over the course of the year, maybe as much as 20,000 gallons of water will pass through these. And the hope is that we might be taking about 500,000 gallons of water off of this parking lot annually and putting it back into the soils here. So it's only going to be storms that exceed 1/3 of an inch that'll get past these.
So, okay, let me get that again. So there's the potential of getting 20,000 gallons a year in this one rain garden. Did I get that right?
At least 20,000 gallons on average will at least reach this rain garden. During larger storms, they might get past it if they fill it up, but it definitely has the capacity to capture at least 1/3 of an inch storm. And if it's a lower intensity storm, certainly more of that water will infiltrate before it gets past it. So hopefully, over the course of the year, 500,000 gallons of water will infiltrate into these soils annually from historically what was 800,000 gallons or more running off before the rain gardens were put in.
Yes! So that's 500,000 gallons a year that has the potential of infiltrating, rehydrating the watershed rather than just draining out and causing flooding and sediment issues downstream.
Yep.
Dude, you're part of the solution, not the problem.
The dimensions of these was largely based off of a study that was done at the Santa Fe Community College in terms of the area of runoff and the volumes of catchment. But largely that study was intended to ensure that we could store enough water in soils to keep urban trees alive in the absence of irrigation. This particular site is hopefully going to expound on some of that study. There are some teachers here that are actually monitoring soil moisture at this site as well. It's serving as an outdoor learning space for the school. And it hopefully will give a little bit more information on different textured soils. So some soils here are a little bit more porous, might drain a bit more, and we still want to be able to ensure that we're keeping these trees alive in the absence of irrigation. So it's another good kind of way to expand on some of the research that's already been done at this point.
So Aaron, if I understand right, in the study, the 7-year study you did at the community college, those are more higher clay content in the soil, whereas the soil here in this parking lot with all these rain gardens, it's much sandier, it's much more droughty.
Yep, these are going to be sandy loams here. It's a little more coarse textured, whereas the community college had clay loams, so it's a bit more finer textured, which would retain water a little bit more. So we're probably doing a better job of actually infiltrating more water into the ground here. It's just a matter of whether we can keep it in the root zone for those plants to take advantage of.
Awesome. And the students and the teachers are helping you get that data.
They're monitoring that, and they're actually comparing this passive irrigation to drip irrigation at another nearby school to look at the differences in terms of soil moisture at places that are regularly irrigated versus kind of the infrequency of storm events, and whether there's still sufficient moisture here compared to the other side as well. So it's a good way to kind of look at conservation measures in other ways.
Nice. I love how it's stacked, and it's an extension of the learning of the school. Now, hey, I notice there's just a little bit of litter in here down in the low spot. Looks like a soda can and stuff. How's that been? What goes on with that?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's only one trash can for the entire parking lot. But
Wait, one trash can
one trash
for this whole parking lot. Okay. Sounds like there's some potential for a little design shift.
Yeah, and we still, kind of raising some stewards here still, so people just kind of thinking about the way in which they take care of their own landscape. But ultimately, any trash that is kind of deposited on the parking lot is usually flowing into the sediment traps, and if it's not captured there, captured in the basin, so it's actually pretty easy to clean the place up.
Wow, so it kind of sounds like it's maybe even helping litter pick up, because instead of it being strewn about the whole parking lot, the stormwater is bringing it to these centralized locations where you can more quickly pick it up.
Absolutely, concentrating that problem. So.
And what about leaf drop and whatnot? Where does that go?
All of that is generally allowed to decompose in the basins. So we're hopefully over time adding a little bit of improved organic nutrients.
Awesome. So using the free power of gravity. Hey, I hear that leaves are called leaves because you're supposed to leave them. All right. I think that's what's going on here. So the awesome thing with this being low and depressed as opposed to mounded, that organic matter is more likely to stick around and help feed the soil life and ecology, as opposed to just drain off and create a maintenance problem for the parking lot.
Yeah. Another benefit too, I mean, because these rain gardens were retrofitted in this parking lot, historically these underlying soils would have been extremely compacted from heavy machinery. And so the long-term decomposition of that organic matter over time is creating structure, is actually improving porosity. So you're actually hopefully breaking those soils down and making them more porous with that organic decomposition.
And more likely to capture more of that 20,000 gallons a year that travels through this rain garden right here.
You're probably increasing the efficacy of the sponge. Yep.
Awesome. Yep. So Aaron, when did this rain garden get put in and these plants get planted?
So this rain garden was installed in June of this year, about 3 months now. Okay. It was planted with 3 different species of trees. Since it's been installed, we've been kind of applying about 4 to 5 gallons of water per tree per week. But because we were fortunate with a good monsoon and initial irrigation, we basically filled these basins immediately after installation. So there's sufficient soil moisture in the rest of the basin. It's just because these are relatively new trees that we need to apply water basically to the ball and burlap section of where it was at. So,
when you first put the plants in, did you give it more water that initial time, or it's always only been this, a bucket a week?
Just when it was initially installed, added a little bit of water to the bottom of the hole, and then brought in about a 200-gallon tank on the back of a trailer, saturated everything around it, and basically it's just small 4 to 5 gallon applications since then.
Plus the runoff from the parking lot.
Plus the runoff, yeah, which we've been really fortunate with.
All right.
I mean, a good indication of the soil moisture is honestly the fact that these grasses are still looking green at this point of the year without any kind of significant application of water. So this is just coming from the runoff from the monsoon season. And these were all just seeded this year. So this is 3 months old.
Awesome. And we're end of September here in the high desert community of Santa Fe, New Mexico. It gets about 14 inches of rain in an average year. But this summer they've gotten above average rainfall. Yep. And where are you getting that water that came from the bucket?
Water was all taken off of out of a cistern from roof water from my house. So
okay.
Trying to apply just simple rainwater from my home.
And you put that rainwater from your home in those blue garbage cans in the back of your truck?
Yep, so those are probably about 25, 30 gallons of water in those. So that's all I'll use for all 7 rain gardens here. So 50 gallons maybe across 7 new rain gardens.
Awesome. So was there ever any irrigation system put in this?
No irrigation systems, no pipes, Just the removal of the original asphalt parking space, some new curb and gutter, and then the kind of improved soils and the plants. That's it. So,
Awesome. So there's no pipe, there's never leaks,
no
there's
pipes,
no
leaks,
timer,
no timer.
there's no pump,
Nope.
there's no water bill because this is rainwater from your rainwater tank.
Yep. And the hope is that after a year and a half, as soon as we get through the toughest season is the spring. Once we get through that, and maybe next summer, these should be rooted out and on their own after that. So about 18 months maybe of application of water periodically.
Awesome. So you're telling me that just after 18 months to 2 years of just this supplemental irrigation of just 3 to 5 gallons per week, just with a bucket of your home rainwater, these will be established and you'll never have to water them again. All their irrigation will just come from the runoff coming off that parking lot that runs down this gutter, kicks in here. So the shade tree that shades, that will grow to shade the parking lot, is watered for free from the parking lot?
Yep, it's the conveyance system.
Yes! Aaron, it looks like you've got a little depression here at the stormwater inlet to your rain garden here. Can you tell me what's this for here? What's going on?
So this is our sediment trap. We have the degradation of a lot of the asphalt off this parking lot. We have de-icing efforts during the winter time. So we have all of this red material is actually a mixture of basalt fines mixed with salt for the purposes of kind of making this a more pedestrian-friendly parking lot. But ultimately,
when you say pedestrian-friendly, because you're trying to reduce ice on the area?
To reduce ice, yep.
Okay.
But ultimately, it all washes off, and it includes a lot of that salt, which is rough on some of the plants in some of the concentrations. So at least having it closer in the sediment trap as opposed to proceeding into the rest of the basin might at least reduce some of the salination of those soils.
Could there be like a post-winter sediment removal program?
We do have some volunteers that come out annually to work here. The good thing about the size of these particular areas of runoff and these dimensions of these sediment traps is, in some cases, these are large enough to go 2 or 3 years without any maintenance. But some of the ones
when you say maintenance, you mean sediment removal?
Sediment removal, yep. So that's kind of a nice feature. But they ultimately will still need some of that sediment removed. The other kind of funny thing to think about in a more temperate area is, we could be using a lot of that snow as a form of irrigation.
Yeah, so snow just covers this parking lot after a good snowstorm?
Yep, and sometimes we'll get anywhere from 6 to 12 inches. And so getting people who are plowing to contemplate how they are actually moving that snow as a resource would be an important kind of thing to kind of contemplate for future maintenance here. So you can literally irrigate by pushing water into areas where it can be easily taken advantage of. So putting it on the upslope entrance or inlet side of this rain garden as opposed to closer to the drain side.
Nice. Could you also just dump it directly into the rain garden?
You could push it into it, but ideally, if it has a lot of sediment in it, if you could just leave it at the inlet, you can still take advantage of the sediment trap as it melts in.
Nice.
And it's important, I think people underestimate the value of winter precipitation. This is your opportunity for recharge because plants are dormant. And so this is the time where you're actually replenishing soil moisture for when the plants emerge in spring. Typically that's a drier time here in Santa Fe. May, June is the hottest, driest months. So having those soils replenished with water over the winter is crucial for those plants kind of getting into the monsoon season. But it also means that if you have a particularly good wet winter, some of that moisture is actually going to be able to percolate beyond the root zone, and hopefully then you're starting to replenish soil moisture down towards the aquifer.
Sweet. So it seems to me you're helping recharge the aquifer 2 ways. One, you're doing it indirectly by not pulling water from it in the first place, because all this is not using pumped in municipal water from the well fields or whatnot, but instead using free rainfall and stormwater runoff. And then you're directly recharging because the surplus water that's captured in these can migrate down beyond the root zone and help directly recharge the aquifer.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, so this parking lot runoff runs down this gutter, enters into this rain garden. And Aaron, You were showing me some other rain garden installations very similar to this one at another school, and there I noticed that you used some landscape fabric under the rock to impede weed growth, but you seem to be doing something different here. What's going on? What are you experimenting with?
Yeah, basically we're trying, in replacing the fabric, we're actually seeding underneath this cobble mulch with a native low-growing grass that should grow a thick enough mat that hopefully it impedes other weeds from coming through. It might take a little bit of maintenance initially to extract or pull out some of the other weeds initially, but the hope is that we'll have kind of more of a natural form of weed barrier that provides a little bit of organic material long-term as well. So in kind of contrast to the weed barrier, which is usually just a woven petroleum product.
Awesome. Well, I love that. So you're using the good life to offset the bad life. And these are really beautiful grasses too.
Two species. It's a little blue stem blue grama and buffalo grass. So
awesome.
Typically about 6 to 12 inches tall, so it stays pretty low.
Love these seed heads, the grama. Awesome. And so what's going on? So you've got that as like your living ground cover, your living mulch, your living weed control. What's going on with your perennial woody species? What's your thinking there?
So typically add at least a couple, 2 to 3 shrubs, trying to choose natives where they can tolerate the excess water. We've got an indigo bush here, which will fill out pretty substantially, probably maybe as much as 6 feet wide. But the benefit here is it's a nitrogen fixer. It also provides a number of flowers for pollinators. And it's just a really easy plant to establish compared to most others we found. So if you want it to kind of highlight the basin where people might be backing up into the area or something like that, kind of precludes people from kind of backing into these systems or walking through them and things like that.
So you're kind of growing like a living vertical marker of like, hey, something's going on here, not a parking space.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then we've got a New Mexico privet, which will provide sometimes some berries for wildlife as well, but great kind of like a little shade-producing shrub, provide a little bit of cover for birds and things like that. We also use things like 3-leaf sumac, low-growth sumac, number of other flowering shrubs that are kind of intended for pollinators as well. So trying to convert what is kind of a stark asphalt desert into something that provides a little bit of refuge for other species.
Awesome. That's great. Turning a dead zone into a life zone. And so how big do you think this tree is going to get?
This is a lacebark elm. It has the potential to get upwards of 35 feet tall and probably similar width. Probably provide a bit of a vase shape, so get some pretty decent shade at this location.
Heck yeah. All right. Live in shade, live in carport, live in large. Aaron Kauffman. So I love that there's the signage, there's an educational component on this, kind of a passive educational component with the signage, complementing the students doing the research in here. But I'm curious, are there other sustainability efforts in the school district along with this?
Yeah, public schools is doing a really good job of offsetting their utility costs by putting in a lot of solar, maybe cutting down energy costs by as much as $500,000 a year in electricity.
When you say solar, do you mean like solar panels?
Photovoltaic, yep.
Yeah, okay.
And then they're also adding geothermal wells to offset some of their heating and cooling costs in buildings. And then their water conservation efforts, leak detection, things like that for inside of buildings, but then all of the passive water catchment outside their buildings. So that includes large active systems as well as like 40,000 gallon cisterns for roof water catchment at some of their schools as well.
And what's the name of this high school here?
This is Santa Fe High School.
And what's the name of the school district?
Santa Fe Public Schools.
Right on. Hats off to them.
Yep, for sure.
What's that metal box next to you there?
So encased in this metal box is a data logger, which is hooked to the probes which are monitoring soil moisture at this site. This is being conducted by one of the faculty members here with their students. It's measuring soil moisture at 6-inch increments down to 24 inches and kind of giving us an idea of where moisture is being held in the soil profile here, and we can easily compare that to a different site with drip irrigation.
Awesome. And I mean, I'm really impressed by what I'm seeing here. And it's so much nicer with these installations than it was compared without them. And I'm just curious, I'm stimulated in a good way. What about the school district? You know, what do they think of these?
Well, the hope here was to create kind of an easily replicable design. So the idea here is engineers can, if they understand the dimensions of the basins and the area that's running off to it, they can easily imprint these into existing situations. And so the schools have actually enjoyed and appreciated the fact that they aren't having to use any irrigation for these sites. They're getting kind of good growth out of these sites. And so they're actually applying it to 4 or 5 other schools at this point, have started retrofitting other school parking lots and putting in these rain gardens as well.
Nice. And how about anyone else in the community? Has anyone else been inspired by this?
Public parks with the city of Santa Fe has started to install these around the same period of time. There's at least 3 different parks now where we have these basins, and same general design, easy to replicate. So it's just kind of very intuitive, hopefully over time.
That's fantastic how it's spreading with retrofits throughout the community. Well, and does it inspire anyone to do these installations like in a new installation? Do we always have to retrofit?
Well, that's the hope, is hopefully we can kind of cut back on some of the costs that are needed for breaking up all this asphalt and starting over if you do it from the beginning. And public schools actually is designing similar types of basins or other rain gardens at new parking lots that are going at some of the schools.
So that's got to be a lot cheaper because you're not doing that retrofit.
Should offset a lot of the costs of removing the asphalt, hauling it away, a lot of the excess dirt and things like that has to be pulled out and things like that.
So what is the average cost of a retrofit, putting in a rain garden like this that at this site has potentially 20,000 gallons of stormwater moving through it in an average year?
Yeah, so the majority of the cost, or at least half of it, is going to go into the removal of the asphalt, the excavation of the underlying soils, and the reinstallation of the curb and gutter.
Okay.
That might be as much as $2,500 in today's kind of economics.
This is in 2025?
2025. And then the additional soil amendments, there might be as much as a couple cubic yards of compost in these, all the plants, the additional labor that goes into building them. Schools always prefers larger trees to be installed, so those are a little more expensive. That'll be another couple, $2,000 or $3,000. So.
Okay, so it's about $5,000 a piece for these at 2025 rates.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, just one thing that, I'll often do in Tucson is we'll usually go no bigger than a 15-gallon size tree to save money at time of planting. Also to, it's less labor when we're using volunteer laborers to dig the hole.
Sure.
And we've also found that, at least in the low desert of Tucson, Arizona, that 15-gallon tree catches up and can even surpass the larger trees in 5 years.
I actually agree with that. I think it would be advantageous to use smaller trees. I think they actually establish a little easier because you're not severing a lot of the roots from a larger root ball of a larger tree. The reason public schools prefers larger trees is because the concerns around students that might be kind of hanging on branches or anything like that, I think. So it's more just kind of try and put a more robust plant into the ground initially.
Got it.
Yep.
Nice. So good, man. All right, let's compare the old way of landscaping and planting another of the high school's parking lots to the new way. So this tree has been in for over 5 years, not looking good. It's watered with drip irrigation. Here are the drip irrigation emitters at the base of the tree. There's a number of them, but notice how the tree was planted where the soil of the landscape median is higher than the asphalt of the parking lot. So it cannot receive the runoff from the parking lot to water it. Instead, it's totally dependent on imported water that the school has to pay for. What's more is there's always leaks and cracks in the, here's another part of the drip irrigation system. In the drip irrigation system, constant repairs. So you not only have to pay for the water, you also have to pay for the repair of the system. Whereas down here, this is a new installation where they depressed this part of the landscape median and created a curb cut opening there. So the water running off of this section becomes the free irrigation source for these new plantings, just done earlier this year. Prior to the rain garden and tree planting, this high school parking lot had no parking lot trees. And this program has given it a whole lot. These trees are still young, so are the understory plants. So they will all grow much more to give much more shade for this parking lot, while also helping control flooding, beautifying the whole area, and becoming a living classroom. Because the kids are studying the results of these installations. All right, for more information on all this and a whole lot more, be sure to check out the new full color editions of my books, Rainwater Harvesting for Drylands and Beyond, which you can get at deep discount direct from me at my website, harvestingrainwater.com. And also be sure to check out the show notes for a whole lot more resources on this, including the plan of this whole project.